A fast growing fintech startup in Mumbai is suddenly swamped with thousands of loan applications, and they decide to deploy an AI driven credit scoring engine to handle the load in seconds. They are thrilled because it saves time, but they have no idea if the system is fair, secure, or even legal. In the language of ISO 42001, we call this context of the organization. It is formally defined as the requirement to determine the external and internal issues that are relevant to the organization's purpose and that affect its ability to achieve the intended outcomes of its AI management system. Put simply, before you touch a single line of code, you must ask, what are we doing? Where are we doing it? And who could get hurt if this goes wrong? If this startup doesn't define their context, acknowledging the strict financial regulations and the privacy of their users, they are building their house on sand. You have probably seen this at the office, where a team rushes to launch a cool new feature without stopping to see if it fits the company's risk appetite or legal obligations. We have to map out the landscape first. So, now that we have mastered the importance of defining our context before the AI even turns on, you might be wondering how we actually get the top brass to take ownership of this. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is leadership and commitment. Imagine the same fintech company, but the CEO thinks AI governance is just an quote IT problem that can be handled by a junior developer in the basement. That is a recipe for disaster. ISO 42001 defines leadership as the requirement for top management to demonstrate commitment to the AI management system by ensuring policies and objectives are established and compatible with the strategic direction of the organization. In simple words, the boss needs to show up, sign off on the resources, and make it clear that AI ethics are a company priority, not just a technical side hustle. If the leadership doesn't set the tone, the culture will never follow. Think of it like a captain on a cruise ship. If the captain doesn't care about the safety drills, the crew isn't going to care either. And if an iceberg hits, everyone is in trouble. We need that executive sign-off to make sure the governance team has the authority to actually enforce the rules. Stay with me here, because once we have the leaders on board, we need a way to figure out what could possibly go wrong. So, now that we've mastered the necessity of executive buy-in, you might be wondering how we identify the specific dangers lurking in our algorithms. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is AI risk assessment. Back to our fintech startup, they are using AI to decide if a customer is eligible for a loan. They realize one day that the AI is automatically rejecting applicants from a certain neighborhood because of some weird hidden correlation in the data. That is an AI risk. The standard defines risk assessment as the process of identifying, analyzing, and evaluating risks related to the AI system to determine if they need treatment. To put it simply, we are playing detective. We look at the AI, ask what if 1,000 times, and measure the damage if that what if actually happens. We aren't trying to stop innovation, we are trying to stop the AI from making decisions that could lead to a massive lawsuit or a loss of customer trust. It is exactly like checking the brakes on a race car. You don't check them to make the car go slower, you check them so you can drive fast with the confidence that you won't crash into a wall. So now that we have mastered how to identify and measure the dangers within our AI models, you might be wondering what we actually do to fix or manage those risks. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is risk treatment and control. Once our fintech team realizes their credit scoring AI is biased against specific neighborhoods, they can't just delete the model. They need to treat the risk. Risk treatment is defined as the process of selecting and implementing controls to modify risk, ensuring that the residual risk is acceptable. In simple terms, this is where we put up our guardrails. They might decide to remove the geographic data from the input, or they might set up a human in the loop process where a real person reviews every loan rejection the AI makes. It is about taking the problem, designing a solution, and proving that the solution actually works. Let's break this down together. If the AI is a wild horse, the risk treatment is the bridle and the training that keeps it on the path. If we don't have these controls, the AI is just running in circles. So now that we have mastered how to implement these vital guardrails, you might be wondering how we make sure our employees know how to operate within these new rules. Well, That brings us right into our next step, which is competence and awareness. Even with the best AI models and the most robust guardrails, if the employees at our fintech firm don't understand why these rules exist, they will find ways to work around them. ISO 42001 requires that the organization ensure that persons doing work under the organization's control are competent on the basis of appropriate education, training, or experience. Simply put, we need to teach our people how to work with the machine. If a data scientist doesn't understand the ethical implications of the data they are training the model with, they are a liability, no matter how good they are at coding. I have seen this happen so many times at the office. A team spends months building a secure system, but then a well-meaning employee accidentally uploads sensitive customer data to a public cloud because they weren't trained on the data handling policies. We need to create a culture where everyone feels responsible for the AI's behavior. So now that we've mastered how to empower our team through competence and awareness, you might be wondering how we prove to the outside world that we are actually doing what we claim. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is performance evaluation and auditing. Finally, our fintech firm needs to prove they are compliant. Performance evaluation is defined as the monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation of the AI management system to ensure it meets the requirements. Basically, we are checking our own work and then having a professional auditor like us check it again. It is about keeping a scorecard. Did the risk treatment work? Are we still bias free? Have the laws changed since we last checked? We need to keep this cycle alive because the moment you stop checking is the moment the standard stops being useful. Remember, this isn't just about getting a certificate to hang on the wall. It is about building a sustainable, safe, and successful business. We started this journey with the context, moved through leadership, identified the risks, built the guardrails, trained our people, and now we are verifying everything. You are now equipped with the full blueprint of how a company implements this standard to turn chaos into professional AI-governed excellence.